Yeah.
I always vote.
Yeah.
Every 4 years I vote, but I only vote for the presidency because
Yeah.
that's how I've been programmed. I mean, the only thing that really matters anymore is voting for president, voting for what gets on television all the time. I really don't care about any of that other stuff.
Right.
And if it's not on the Daily Show, then it's not real. So that's about as political as
So
we
you've
get.
probably never seen a subcommittee meeting.
Can we speak in terms that I understand? Because a
don't
lot
know.
of terms that are used in politics currently very much turn me off.
Well, I mean, do you vote yourself? You say you
Yeah.
vote, but you actually vote?
I always vote.
Well, that's interesting because people think that the young have turned off. How come you vote?
I think I vote because of primarily Rock the Vote. I actually thought, wow, my vote does make a difference.
Yeah.
Although recently I've been reading some literature that's have led me to believe that maybe voting is actually a system of distracting people from being active in government when election time is not around. It's interesting.
You just put it off till every 4 years and you
Yeah.
vote, and that's that.
You can only care in November, and you're set, and trust the government to do its thing for 4 years. I don't really feel like there's a lot of importance placed upon being active in the government in our daily lives.
Right.
I'll let you guys handle the war and all that, so that not only are we creating a lot of profit, but we're keeping it all in the control of the few.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying here? Am I
Yeah.
rambling, man?
Well, but you're young. You're entitled. No, but you know, back in the '60s, there were all these collectives, and people would get together, and we won't have any. Nobody's going to tell us what to do. We're all going to agree on everything together, and we'll just live in this blissful sort of innocence where nobody's trying to get over on anybody else. And I don't know any of those things that lasted very long because people got really bored with it, and then you'd have to have these interminable long meetings where everybody got to speak. But then,
Right.
of course, some people couldn't think of anything to say, and some people dominated the conversation, and most people didn't want to really run things. You know,
Right.
normal people don't want to run everything. So you got all these sort of freakish people who want to run everything, and they've got a lot of energy for that. And I think that's part of the human condition, and what you have to do is just sort of resist your temptation to let these freakish people run everything, and just sort of try to find out what they're doing and try to mess with them a little bit so that they'll pay attention to you. But you got to have some kind of structure, I think, just so somebody has to be in charge.
Well, you know, back when I was coming up in the days, I used to hear a lot of radicals say political power comes out of the barrel of a gun, based on all the gangsterism. But you
that's
always
not
got to
gonna go
remember,
down
though,
now.
you got to remember the gangsterism that this country is based on is still in effect.
What do you mean the gangsterism that this country
You know,
is
the way this
based on?
country was like thugged away from the indigenous peoples, the way people of color, black people, were brought here and forced to work. That's gangster.
That scares me because I think that the answer to that will be something that will be so intense that we won't even be able to believe it's America.
But if you have nothing, there's nothing else for you to do, so you don't really care. That's what motivates that in the first place.
But our guys in charge are not worried about gangsterism or anything else. That they know they've got it locked down.
But like, look at the new way that they gangster you. Look at Enron. Look at big corporate heads just stealing all this money. That's the gangsterism I'm talking about too. You know, that's another aspect of how they doing it these days. Gangsterism is a form of foreign policy. It has a new voice. It has a new look. But I see that which lies underneath everything in this country still in effect in certain.
So
in
the
many
spirit
ways.
of America is a gangster spirit.
Definitely. That's America.
It may be a gangster spirit, but there are also parts of America that at least, I think maybe we're created to balance out the gangster part.
Exactly.
Right?
There we go.
That's
what we have to do. Balance it out.
Well, that's what democracy is supposed to be.
Yeah, there
is
we go.
to
balance out some
that
of this gangsterism.
Right, is to balance it out. And you know, even if we want to talk in another kind of ooey way, I guess we even say that the country is out of touch with its feminine side. It's out of touch with the caring side. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I don't even know how, in this spirit of this time, one even makes an argument for caring about other people without sounding flat out silly. I mean, is it time for care and love to be radical again? I don't know, but it's almost silly because we're just not there, and we know that if you're right about that gangster force, I think we all feel it. We feel it, and we don't know what to apply to it to balance
point,
it
and
out. So maybe we need an invigorated
I think so,
idea.
but I also think it's not a feminist. I think it's not a feminine thing, that gangster thing. So I would like to see some of that testosterone that fuels gangsterism toned down.
The hypocrisy of, for example, the council in Iraq was supposed to have power to run their own country, moments after we stopped, fighting. But our government said we can't let that happen because there's an Ayatollah or two on the governing council, and we don't want any religious people. Hello? Mr. Bush says he's run by God. I am put here by God. He also said, what did he say? He said, the jury is out on evolution. Well, maybe for him, but you know what I'm saying.
The thing that, if the fundamentalist movement all over the world is growing, and I think it is, it's of course growing in the United States too. We have basically a fundamentalist president now.
Well, that's absolutely right. We didn't go to war for that. Well, but did we go to war in Iraq because of religion? No. We went to war in Iraq because we need to have the American century again. Mm-hmm. Really, it's about us putting our bases everywhere. We've got bases now in Iraq. Every time we go someplace, like Bosnia, we establish a permanent base.
Where do you think the push will come next?
You know what, Sydney, maybe I am all of a sudden an optimist here. I really feel that people are much more educated now.
I don't know if they're educated or if they just have more information. There's a difference.
Well, maybe it's not educated, maybe it's open, maybe it's willing, maybe it's a recognition that we are part of the world's neighborhood, and I think that's a positive, a big positive. But now I think things have to happen on a local level. We have to disinherit the corporations. Populism is happening around the country to return to democracy.
I just thought that as soon as fear hits, everything becomes possible. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, that sense of fear, that sense of insecurity, is a source of great political strength to whoever knows it, how to use it. It becomes a source of demagoguery. Mm-hmm. And now, if we start getting afraid economically, whether it's internationally economic, or domestically economic, then I think the atmosphere becomes very ripe for demagoguery and an even more fascist president.
Well, wasn't the time that you were living during the Depression, wasn't that the highest amount of socialist candidates getting, the most votes ever in the history of the United States?
But the two aren't really comparable, because the Depression happened just once and was cataclysmic. Mm-hmm. It was, that horrible Tuesday, and then bang, in 2 years the nation was literally down the toilet.
Are you saying that this is different because it's so gradual? Or?
Yes. What I think what's been happening is that there has been an erosion, and that September 11th then opened a chasm, that an erosion was taking place for a long time.
You mean upward, out of the workers' hands into the rich's hands?
An erosion about, I don't really care much about government. I don't really care much who's in Washington. It makes no real difference who's there. It was, you could see it by the falling vote. Every year, fewer and fewer, smaller and smaller
that's why we
percentage.
have to take it back.
Essentially, what I'm trying to say, Reno, is that I think there's been a slow disengagement by most Americans from the political process.
But I'm trying to tell you that the electorate, the population, not just of the United States, but all of the world, are getting more politicized. And there are ways in which it is showing. TrueMajority.com, MoveOn.com, tons of grassroots organizations that are making their views known and following it with their money from the internet.
Oh, you're such an optimist.